Following a trip to Kunming, Liang Sicheng returned with terrible news. Lin Huiyin's younger brother, Lin Hang, a graduate of the Kunming Air Force Academy, had been killed in action over Chengdu. Shortly after Liang Sicheng and his family arrived in Kunming, they began receiving parcels from the Kunming Air Force Academy. The parcels contained various items left behind by the young cadets they had met on their journey into exile. The cadets had graduated and gone off to fight the Japanese, but one after another they had been killed in action. Among the items were photographs, records of Western music and record players. The cadets bequeathed these much-loved items to Liang Sicheng and his wife. Brother, I do not have words appropriate for this era to mourn over your death. This era made a simple request of you, and you responded. Your absolute and simple heroism is a poem of this era. I want to add more sorrow to the unavoidable reality by shouting, you understand why, that you have gone too soon, too soon. Brother, your bravery is great. Your death is too cruel. I tell you, these young boys are courageous and pure-hearted with very direct and simple faith in our country and its war. They're trained to use their skills simply and to give up their lives simply if it need be. One of them I wrote to you about, who plays the violin very well, a most affectionate and winning one, is now engaged to be married. Don't ask me what's going to happen to his girl if he marries and if something happens to him. We just can't answer things like that. You must believe that you gave away all you had. I know that very well. Why do I weep for you? It is because you are only a child and didn't leave anything for yourself. When you were a little boy, I prayed for your happiness. When you were fighting, I prayed for your safety. You don't have children to worry about. What you need is consolation. But it seems our countrymen in their millions have forgotten for whom it was you died. By 1941, Liang Sicheng and Lin Huiyin had been living in exile with their family for 4 years. They had moved from Beijing to Tianjin, and then from Tianjin to Kunming, and finally Lijuang. The war, it seemed, would never end. They would spend 5 years in the out-of-the-way town of Lijuang. To compound their misery, in all that time there would be no sign of Lin Huiyin's illness relenting.
他都是不出门，为什么动不了？就只能躺在床上。
In Lijuang, the Society for the Study of Chinese Architecture hired one last staff member. He was Luo Zhewen, a graduate of Yibin Middle School, and he was just 16 years old.
有的时候，比如说，可能这个天儿好啊，把他用那个椅子抬出来，在院里头坐一下，一般他都不出来的。
The 12 hours during the daytime are my 12 friends. They come and go one after another. The last sunlight also leaves, pulling along its shadow. I do not have time to ask myself what ideas I have. The dusk sneaks in on tiptoe and with curiosity. I say, my friend, I won't complain to you this time. Every time I complain, my pride is hurt. The dusk falls silent and walks away without a word. I feel lonely and throw myself into the bosom of the night silently. I was weeping over this sheet when your family letter on 2 typewritten sheets arrived. It is so interesting and informative and makes you so much more you and not something in a vacuum. I am sorry to have focused on my own narrow strip of extreme boredom and loneliness. I am too much of an old-fashioned feminine parasite who depends on feelings in order to survive the days. Rather gloomy days, I must say. For more than a decade, Huiyin corresponded with the American scholar John Fairbank and his wife Wilma. Half of her letters to the couple were written during the 5 years she lived in the small town of Lijuang. She longed for her friends and those happy days when they had been together. After it moved to Lijuang, the Society for the Study of Chinese Architecture, a private institution, lost almost all its financial support. The little money Liang Sicheng received wasn't even enough for the staff to live on. To solve this problem, the Ministry of Education in Chongqing and the Central Research Academy agreed to put the Society's key members on the payrolls of the government-sponsored Institute of Historical Languages and the Preparatory Office of the Central Museum. By 1941, the spiralling inflation had rendered money virtually valueless. The most important form of currency was grain. The Nanxi County Archive has a large collection of documents and ration coupons. That they are signed by Fu Sinian, Director of the Institute of Historical Languages, Tao Menghe, Director of the Institute of Social Sciences, Li Ji, Director of the Preparatory Office of the Central Museum, and Ding Wenyuan, President of Tongji University, indicates how much time these leading academics had to spend on the basics of survival.
哎呀，我父亲那时候我现在回想起来，我都心疼他。我父亲太辛苦了，他学会了打静脉注射，就是因为我妈妈成天要打静脉注射。
My family didn't have money to buy shoes. I went barefoot or wore straw sandals to school. My heels were rubbed raw by the straw and festered. Father made me bend over a chair and asked me, "Are you afraid of pain?" I clenched my teeth and said, "No, I'm not afraid." He cut off the damaged flesh with a pair of scissors and poured some iodine on the wound. It hurt so much, stars danced before my eyes, but I didn't utter a sound. He said, "Good boy." During the war, Father became a kind of family doctor, treating his own wife and children. Our 2 children often look like urchins out of a story by Dickens. His legs are so bitten and scarred that they don't look like legs at all. In the collection of Lijuang Museum, there's a drawing done by Liang Sicheng and given by him to his children as a present. It depicts the view from a window in Lungtou village looking towards Lijuang. John Fairbank, far away in the United States, got some idea of the life Liang Sicheng and his family were leading in Lijuang from their letters. The paper is of all shapes and sizes, much of it thin, yellow and decaying, the kind that might have wrapped bits of meat or vegetables brought back from the market. But what they all have in common is that every inch of every one is used. No empty space is afforded for margins or paragraphs, and the final page is often only a half or a third of a page, the rest having been cut off for some other purpose. Then the number of stamps on the envelopes makes one understand how costly this correspondence actually is.